Today, I'm trying to understand Polish family trauma. Boom! Boom! Cześć ludzie! What's up people? Hola, JT here. Welcome to another episode. I've been really trying to understand recurrent emotional patterns within Polish families. I've thought about this long and hard. I've analyzed things, I've observed with a lot of intent, and most importantly, I've been trying not to jump to conclusions without at least really giving it a proper thought and without having paid attention to different cases. This is not about blame. This is about history. This is about trauma and how large-scale suffering becomes private family behavior. First, let's talk about historical trauma and collective stress. Poland was partitioned for 123 years, and later, during World War II, was devastated. Poland lost approximately 17% of its population. I read online that nearly 19% of Poles experience symptoms that are consistent with PTSD, with post-traumatic stress disorder. This is significantly higher than the global average. Such exposure to trauma doesn't just disappear in one generation. Usually it gets passed down from family members and from generation to the next generation. It basically becomes embedded in the family system. I could not even try to understand what a babcia or a dziadek went through, let's say during war times or during communistic times. Those experiences, they carry them right here on the shoulders, becomes almost like a definition of who they are. They cannot shake it off. That's why so often these poor people are constantly telling you about how things used to be. They relive this and tell you the stories over and over. For them, is that projection that is on a wall and it doesn't disappear. It's always there. Let's talk about alcohol for a moment. For the longest time, you would hear a couple of things about Poland. That it was cold, that it was dark, and that people drank a lot. I remember my first interactions in Poland, just basically alcohol being such a big part of the reality of people here. It is a big part of Polish culture. Now, not everyone, okay? I will say that not everybody drinks so much, but it happens. The reason for this is because alcohol historically was used as a coping mechanism for stress and stability, or the lack of stability. Also, as an inhibitor. It was a way for people to be able to connect with their feelings without necessarily feeling that they are connected with their feelings. Did that make sense? I think Poles feel deeply, and I think Poles really want to connect. They just don't know how to do it without the aid of an agent. It's estimated that around 2.8 million people in Poland suffer from alcohol dependency. As a reminder, alcoholism is an illness, and around only a quarter of those people actually receive treatment for this illness. But even more worrying than that is the fact that around 40% of Polish population display behavioral patterns that are prone to developing an alcohol addiction. And if not a full-blown alcohol addiction, at least alcohol misuse, which is what we see in the Polish youth. I still remember my wife telling me at the beginning when we started dating, no one really likes vodka. When you drink vodka, it's because you are searching for something. You are searching to either forget something or they want to connect without feeling weird. Basically, the association with alcohol in Poland is that you cannot really have fun unless you have a little bit of something, or at least you'll have more fun. The thing is that, as you would expect, alcohol abuse very often leads to domestic conflict, neglect, and inconsistent parenting. Another direct byproduct of this alcohol misuse and abuse is, of course, domestic violence and anger patterns. Sometimes Polish society feels like it's an angry society. People have unresolved anger issues, very short fuses. Anything can make them just explode. According to recent data by the police, around 50,000 Polish women annually report domestic violent issues here in Poland. Very often, it is linked to the overconsumption of alcohol. It's a deadly combination. A society that is using a substance to lose inhibition or to try to put something behind and forget about something, and also not having the proper tools to express feelings, it often leads to full-on outright violence. And one of the worst things is that children that are raised in households like this very, very often develop hypervigilance, are constantly looking over their shoulders. They don't know, micro-reading the expressions of the parents, listening to the tone of voice, and of course feeling not only scared but terrified. This highly likely leads to the suppression of emotions and of course a very strong difficulty regulating anger as adults. But even though all children are prone to developing trauma and different types of issues, having been raised in those type of environments, the most affected are men. Men in a post-war, post-communistic Poland were not handed the tools to deal with emotions. Understandably so. Their parents, grandparents didn't have time to think about emotions. They were facing war, conflict, lack of goods, just struggling. Basically live what we today consider a normal life. Thinking about emotions, it softens you up. You need to be tough. You need to be ready for all of the things that people were encountering during those times. So emotional expression was actually disencouraged, from what I gather. But we are human, and we are highly emotional beings. So when you're disencouraged to show happiness, joy, then something needs to come out. And usually that is sadness, frustration, fear. So some fathers were physically present, providing for their families, but emotionally absent, often due to stress, trauma, substance abuse. And many of these children that grow up in this daily interaction with this ambience, this mood, seeing a mother that is overtired, overworked, unappreciated, very oftentimes they develop sensation of unworthiness, of insecurity, self-esteem issues. A lot of Polish people suffer from something called parentification. Parentification is when you are meant to feel that you have to parent your parents, that you are responsible for their emotional well-being, that they need your support, basically, in order to just go on with life. So a lot of people in Poland, especially once they grow up, they have to monitor the mental well-being of their parents. And it's a big load. They have to baby their parents. And what often happens is that when you are investing your time into babying somebody else's needs, then you are neglecting some of your own needs. It's a really big problem. You see it in a lot of Polish families. I've heard about this, not once, not twice. You know, the phrase, that's how Polish parents are. People have kind of like just accepted it. There is a certain level of drama and complication that comes from just having Polish parents. Of course, let's state the obvious. There are a lot of good things that Polish parents give their children. I want to make sure that you know that I am not here just bashing your parents or anyone's parents or whatever, my family for that matter, at all. This is about observing patterns and recognizing behaviors that lead the society to act in certain ways, and maybe putting this out there for us to reflect and for us to try and not repeat some of the same mistakes. I have children that are Polish, so it is also part of my responsibility to try to find a solution slowly to change the status quo and understand that there's another way that might be a little bit healthier for our minds and for our souls. Sadly, I feel in Poland a little bit of like a national low self-esteem sometimes gets masqueraded by this bravado.
We are Polish and this is how we do things. If you don't like it, just get out.
But you can see there's insecurity, that there is lack of understanding their own worth. Not everybody, of course. And like I said at the beginning, this is not me blaming anybody. So in my opinion, one of the biggest things that we can do for ourselves, for our offsprings, our children, is to develop a little bit of self-awareness, problems that we have that we can change, that we can work on, so that we help neutralize a little bit of those traumas. And if not neutralized, learn to live with them, not have them on our shoulders, weighing us down. All that weight on people's shoulders here is what leads to this complaining that never ceases. It's there, it's constant, and it has become part of the culture. It's in the fabric of what it is to be Polish. A lot of Polish people defend this. That's how we connect. Oftentimes people even go to the extremes of not welcoming optimism. Optimism is overrated. We like it real here. If my day sucked, it sucked, and I'm gonna tell you about it. That's Polish people tell you this, just like that. They don't want someone coming and saying, how are you? How are you this morning? Everything's all right. Are you good? I'm good. I'm great. Thank you very much. There is so much distrust when a Pole hears somebody answer something that optimistic and joyful. And the way that I see it, this just reflects a very deeply ingrained survival mindset. Expecting disappointment can oftentimes feel safer than just risking hope. These days, I mean, we're in 2026, so already started very promising as a year, but for the most part, in modern times, you go about your day, you go about your business, there's food on the shelves, you can have access to medication, you have high-speed internet. Like, the world has become drastically easier. Holding on to those old mentalities, like the need to complain, to connect, just hampers openness, prevents you from connecting with somebody through a healthier emotional way. The way that I see it, it's time to put away the rug. That big rug where Polish people put the dirt under and then pretend that nothing happened. I think it's time. Poles are ready. The new generations are already vastly different than some of the older ones. I think Poles owe this to themselves. Understand that the world, although difficult, challenging, it's more beautiful if you have a positive outlook in life. If you wake up and you smile when you look at yourself in the mirror, even if there's no reason to smile, but if you smile, the experts in neuro-linguistic programming say that it makes a huge difference. Latinos have had really, really difficult times. We still do. But seems to be working for us to have a little bit of joy. Boom! That's all, guys. That's the end of this episode. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it insightful. I want to hear your comments and your thoughts below. See you on another episode. Bye-bye.